Hello, everybody. We are so happy that you're joining us today. So, today's topic is get your sellers to lower the price, the listing price reduction system with weekly email reports and MLS statistic graphs. You're going to see the email template and see charts in the MLS that Mike is using. Welcome to Rams Agents Talk Real Estate, the training series for real estate agents, brokers, and realtors. My name is Angela Newman, and I'm honored to introduce today's speaker, Mike Cerrone. Mike is a 30-year industry veteran. He has worn many hats, including newbie, solo agent, team leader, manager, and independent broker owner. Mike's best year in production, he listed 21 homes in 30 days, had 9 closings in one day, sold 113 homes in 1 year, and was ranked in the top 300 salespeople in the nation by NAR magazine. For the last decade, Mike ran Mastermind Agent and helped 35,000 agents grow their production by sharing the best practices of the top agents through daily emails, 220 podcast interviews, 15 online summits, and 6 video training courses. Mike is happily married to Kim, has 4 adult children, 2 grandchildren, and a Chesapeake Bay retriever named Falcor. Now, for the show, we're going to get started, so please make sure that you are muted until the end. You can ask any questions that you have in the chat. If you'd like to ask a question, you can also raise your hand, and we will encourage interaction as we go through it. So don't be afraid to speak up. There will be a formal Q&A at the end of the talk as well. So let's hear a great big welcome for Mike Cerrone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Angela, and thank you everybody for being here. Those are really kind words. I forget about some of the things I've done. It's been a long time. 30 years is crazy. 3 decades in the business. I know I've got other veterans here. Thank you for being here and participating with us. What we're going to do today is if you find yourself in a slow, flat, or declining market, then this talk is going to be for you. If you're not in that kind of market, you might still pick up a couple gems, and I hope you don't end up in that kind of market, but it's highly likely the way the economy is shifting. So I'm going to share how you can get your sellers to lower the price. You'll see part of my listing price reduction system that I use, including my weekly email reports that I send out. I'll show you the actual template that you can go ahead and copy and mimic or spin off of to help yourself get started if you're not doing that yet. And I'm also going to show you how to go into the MLS. We'll do it live. We'll go into MLS together, and I'll show you how to get some statistical graphs, because sometimes it's easier for people to see things rather than just hear them. Sometimes your seller will click in quicker if you can show them rather than tell them. All right, first I'm going to start off with a little bit of background of what's going on in the market. I'm going to tell you what's happening in my market, and then I'm going to get into these showables. So we're going to try to move through this pretty quickly. But real estate markets across America, they are all unique. In fact, we have a bifurcation in the market right now. It's kind of 2 markets where some markets are stopped and stalling and falling. Some markets are still going up, and you could be in either one. And if you all have been around long enough, you may remember back in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, there was a time frame, it stretched, where this was happening. Certain markets were sliding, certain markets were still going up. Not everybody got hit at the same time. By 2008, the whole economy was starting to slide and turn, and all of our markets were hurting. So hopefully this is some information that you can use, no matter which market you're in. Well, I'll give you a couple quick examples. Austin was a real high flyer market, Austin, Texas. They turned early. They've already turned and been turning and going down for the last year or 2 years. If you talk to agents down in that market, some of their zip codes are down 19% from the peak. So they've already gotten hit. Florida just turned within the last year. It was still flying high and people didn't think it happened there. Well, it's already happening. There's zip codes there. They were down 7% in the last year. I'm in Metro Denver. In my market, we've already had a bit of a flattening and a turn. Some of our overall markets already slid 1 to 2%, depending on where you're looking. And the predictions, I try to see some people that I trust on this stuff. Again, it's all crystal ball, but the predictions are some of my zip codes in the next year will fall 10 to 12%. So for my people, I've got to start positioning them before that happens. I want them to catch the prices now before it falls 10%. These are the kind of dialogues you can start having with your sellers if you can start finding these kind of stats and predictions. So in my market, if it's true, I have to prepare for my clients to win in this declining market. If you haven't been through a declining market, what happens is things start stair-stepping down, and your goal is to help your seller get down to the next stair step before all the competition. If your seller is traveling behind all the competition, they're going to end up going down 3, 4, 5 steps. If they can get in front of the competition, they may only go down 1 step. So as a quick example, if you got $100,000 prices, that's what their price is today, just to keep it simple. If they move down to 95 before everybody else, they could sell it to 95 before the prices go down to 90, 85, 80, etc. And so that's the concept you got to get across to them. If I used to show it on a piece of paper, I'd write that out as a stair step moving down. Our sellers today are also working against some bigger trends that are happening out there, some hardcore business people that know how to move fast. And what I'm talking about here are builders. Builders nationally, they don't wait around. They've got to get their inventory sold. And so they've been making adjustments. They've been adding incentives for buyers to purchase their inventory. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. You might want to go do a little research. But the average right now, the average incentive, buyer incentive added for a person purchasing a builder property today across the US, $58,000. $58,000 in incentives these builders are throwing at buyers. That's what your seller is competing against. In a lot of these markets, if you look at them, the new construction homes are now as cheap or cheaper than resale homes. Think about that for a minute. When have you seen that before? These sellers are getting competitive. They know they have to get competitive on price, and they have to get competitive on incentives. See, this is a conversation you have to have with the seller, preferably in the listing presentation. But if that's already passed, now you got to start talking to them after the fact in these reports that we're going to show you in a minute. These are the concepts you want to start sharing. You want to dig into this research. All right, so builders, what are they doing? They're giving construction upgrades. You know, they're giving you upgrades on your cabinetry as an example. They're prepaying expenses. They're paying for closing costs. They're doing finance incentives, like either buying down the interest rate for a lower monthly payment, just an overall point buy down, or they're doing something fancy like a 2-1 buy down, where it's lower in the first year by 2 points, lower by 1 point in the second year, and then it goes flat for the third year and through the end of the note. They're doing things that are creative. And by the way, you can do this with your seller as well. Your seller can finance a 2-1 buy down. It costs 3 points on the loan, and they can do that themselves and make their home very competitive, a resale home. Other examples I just saw in Facebook. I rarely have ever gone on Facebook. Recently, I've been in there because I had to do another project, and I've seen this stuff pop up. And I saw a new construction builder in my market selling condos and townhomes, price range between 300 and 400,000, 300 and 400,000 price range. And the builder is offering 5% buyer agent commissions. The builder is offering a 5% buyer agent commission up to $20,000. Again, think about that. The price of the property is 400 to 300. So they're offering that, plus they're offering another $20,000 to the buyer for buyer incentives. So they are offering 10% plus of the funds that they would receive to go back out to agents and to the buyer. Again, I just want you to see how these sellers are positioning themselves. That's why these builders are selling so many properties, even though our market's been sliding. It's a conversation you got to have with your seller. See, how can you position that seller to do some of these tricks, some of these things, and make it win for them. All right, what else do we have here? Let me give you just some specifics in my market. Again, I'm here in Metro Denver. I've got a listing that I took, and in 30 days, we've only had one showing, right? The AVM on this property said that there was 400,000 was the price, automated valuation models. I'm sure you've seen them and you look at them and your sellers are looking at them. And so you have to talk about it. So the price said 400. That's where this gal wanted to go out. We went out at 400, didn't work. We dropped to, I could get her to go to 385. We tried that. We tried a little combination with an incentive. We're now down to 375. Still crickets. Still crickets. Only have one showing in 30 days. So in her price range and her zip code, I did a little research, and this is something you can do. I went ahead and looked at in her price range and her zip code and her type of property. This is a condo townhome category. I said, okay, between 350 and 400, what's going on in there? And now I can show her and have showed her. There are 10 active listings and only one pending and 0 sales in the last 30 days. Think about that. In the entire zip code, there are 10 homes for sale, only one pending. So that's the 11th property, one pending, and 0 homes that have been sold in 30 days and going back 1 month, because you're looking for a month's worth of inventory, the supply rate, the absorption rate, excuse me. So she's got a big challenge there. And the prior report in the prior 30 days as we were coming in, there was only one sold, right? So we've got like 10 months of inventory for her. If it goes at this current pace, it will take her 10 months to sell. She wants to sell much faster than that. So this is what starts getting people's light bulbs to go off. I've got to reposition, right? And that's what you have to have in these dialogues with your seller. If you can show them rather than tell them. So I've shown her the competition. I've emailed her the competition out of the MLS. I've given my report, which I'll show later, which also spells it out. It shows her what's happening in the market. So she can take that in. And she's telling me, yes, I understand. I get it. I understand the position I'm in. And she's made adjustments already, but we'll probably make some more. So that's one. A second one I've got a listing where the AVM came in at, it was showing 725. 725. It's a big townhouse. And so in that case, the owner, we had seen what was happening in the neighborhood and knew that that just didn't feel right. And we priced at 650. This property is all dolled up, by the way. It looks great. Just did a remodel on it, but she priced in at 650. Had showings, but no offers, dropped the price down to 625. Again, showings, no offers, dropped the price down to 600. Showings, no offers. In fact, in that entire time, 60 days on the market, 26 showings. 26 showings. 4 buyers have said, we're going to bring you an offer, and did second showings. Then they didn't. Right? We're in a different market. Again, I don't know what your market is, but that's what we're experiencing here. The market has shifted. These are stories that I'm telling you. These are stories that you should be telling your seller at the listing presentation. And if you miss that, then you start telling them now. You can tell them my stories that I just shared with you. You can tell them your own personal experience. You can tell them the stories of the agents in your office. Stories get the idea across to them faster. That's why it's great to share a story. And I tried to give you an example there. All right. What else do we got here? So, all right, so now you understand kind of what the situation is. You may be experiencing the same thing. In fact, maybe I'll do a quick show of hands. Anybody want to raise your hand? Tell me, are you working in a slow market? In fact, if you don't mind, I'm going to open this up. I want to see everybody real fast. Who can tell me who's in a slower market? Okay. Yeah. All right. So they're starting to shift around. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to put us back on. Okay, so I just want to see the whole group at once because I got these different views. Thank you. So it looks like a lot of us are in these shifting markets. You know what I'm talking about. You're feeling it. Well, I want to give you some practical stuff you can work with to try to get through this. So the number one thing you can do is the listing appointment itself. And if you already have a listing, I'll come back to that. But you go take a new listing over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, especially as we move into the new year, you've got to be having these conversations early. You have to have the conversation in the listing appointment to position that seller. We're moving into the kind of market where you don't want to take the listing if the seller is not motivated and not willing to price correctly. Okay, that's the kind of market we're switching into. When we were in the fast-paced market, everything's flying off the shelf, different environment. Yeah, go ahead and overprice your property a little bit to start because the market's probably going to catch up with you. Today, it's not going to happen. And this is the dialogue you have to have with that hard talk with the seller. And the way you can start it off is by saying, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm here to help you today. Do you want me to tell you what you need to hear or what you want to hear? Do you want me to tell you what you need to hear or what you want to hear? Well, what do you mean, Mike? Do you want me to tell you exactly what's going on in the market, or do you want me to make up a rosy picture just so you'll hire me? Because there's a lot of agents that are going to come in and compete with me, and they're going to tell you anything that you need to hear in order to hire them. Or do you want me to tell you exactly what it's going to take to sell your home in this market and maximize your position here without any kind of fluff? Which would you prefer? Notice the silence in the end. That's the key. You have to let them think about it, digest it, and come back at you. Okay. And then once they give you permission, now you can explain what's going on in the market. You have it's got to be the dialogue in the listing presentation. All right. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to talk about the local overall market, and then you're going to want to zoom into what's going on with them because they could be different scenarios. They actually could be in a declining overall market, but their actual neighborhood is going up, or vice versa. And so you have to be able to look at both because they're probably only hearing one. Okay, they're probably only hearing what's going on in the news in that bigger picture. And I'm going to show you some examples here in just a second. And then, yeah, my biggest point on this today, and I'm going to show you here in just a sec, is to show rather than tell. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to try to share my screen. And I think I'd be faster at this by now, Angela. Let's see. All right, let's do share. Oops, let me get to the right screen. I'm going to show you right as I go into my MLS. And where are you? Here's the screen. All right, Angela, can you see my screen? All right, cool, thank you. All right, and I'm going to clear this out in case it's getting in anybody's way. All right, so here is in my MLS. I'm in Colorado. Again, RE Colorado is our MLS. Yours probably looks similar, and I'm hoping has similar features. If it doesn't have exactly what I'm looking at as far as the program, you probably have something that's very similar to it in your MLS. Matrix is what we use to go and do the listings on the MLS. But right here at the start, there's another option called Info Sparks. Okay, in my market, it's called Info Sparks. Let me show you what that looks like. So I plug it, I click it, and here it pops up. And what we've got is kind of a visual representation of statistics in the MLS. And I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I may show to my seller to help them understand the market and the situation they're in. And let me just tell you one quick thing. If I could get the seller to tell me to drop the price or add an incentive, then I've won, right? Because it's coming from them. And that happens often for me because I'm sharing all this information. They tell me to price it correctly. They tell me they don't want to overprice. They tell me I don't want to be too ambitious. They tell me we've got to reposition and readjust. And I think a lot of it comes down to showing them information like we're about to go through. All right, so let's walk through this. First of all, you're going to have some kind of option where you could look at the entire MLS, or you can look at a city, you can look at a county or a zip code. Right now, we're going to start with the entire MLS. We're going to do two types of searches. One is the entire MLS, and then we're going to zip right down into the neighborhood that the property is in, or at least the zip code. All right, so I'm going to do all price ranges to start. It's the big picture through the MLS. I got residential, the type of property. I'm going to stick with all property types to start, all bedrooms, all baths, all square footages and years, but you can adjust any of those if you chose to, and you think that's going to be more helpful for your client. You can see we've got a graph here. What I want to show you is over here on the upper right, we've got things you've got to know to control what you're seeing. I'm sticking with a line graph, and then I want to show the time. This is currently set up on 3 years, but I have the option to do 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, or a max. And in my market, that goes back to about 2009. Let me show you, for instance, I'm probably going to show them a 5-year graph to start. And the reason is because 2020 is when the pandemic hit, and that kind of changed all of our markets a little bit. And that's what they may remember, this run up. And this, for instance, is closed price. And you can see there's a giant run up in my market. It started down. The median closed price was 460, 406, and it ran up to 560. They may know that, but I also want to show them, yeah, but it kind of went flat. It went flat in our market from 23, 24, all the way through 25, right? And they can visually see that. We can now talk about that. The other thing that this is a nice trend line, goes nice and smooth. And the reason is this key over here where it's 12 months. If you open that up, you'll notice this is what's called a rolling 12 months. It's looking back in time 12 months before it gives the data point. And watch what happens if I go to like 6 months. It's going to get more choppy. And if I go to 3 months, choppier still. And now if I just go month by month data, you can see it's really jagged. And that's fine. You may be wanting to make a point to show them with jagged. I'll show you that in a minute. But I actually like this rolling 12 month because it shows the trend line and how things kind of went up and went flat. So I can give them a lot of information with this graph right here. And my program here, it's called closed price. You have the option to do a median or average. You can pick whichever one you choose. If you're in a market where things get skewed because things are either real expensive or real cheap, then the median is really good to show what's in exactly the middle of the market, the middle of the price range in this case. Okay. So I'm going to stick with median. I'm going to show this trend. I just want to, before I go on and show you a couple other things that could be helpful, I just want to start with this, with price, because they have it in their mind that prices have constantly gone up. And you can say, hey, look, in our market, actually, they just kind of went flat for the last X number of years. Your market may show a downturn here, which would be very helpful. Your market would show maybe it's continued to rise. Whatever it is, you can share this information with them. And that's what this little share button is. Check out this little share button. I think this is the neatest feature. You can share this and give them this graph in a couple different ways. One, you can show static, which shows the stats right now as it is, and it won't change. But you can also do one that's called live, where it will, what I'm going to show you in a minute, can adjust with new data. But I'm going to start with static. The other thing is you can give it to them as a PDF. You can do it through social media or an email, which is what I'm going to choose here. And then you can also embed it in your website if you think it's valuable information. Again, either show static or a moving, what they call live. And then the CSV where you can download the information. But watch what happens if I pick static, social media, email, and I click share. It's going to give me this link. I can now send my people this link, say by email or text, or even in social media. If I copy this link, and I'm going to go open up a new browser, if I open this up and paste it in, check out what happens. I now have this graph that they can look at and absorb all by themselves with all the information, right? It shows the trend line, shows what's happening. This was what prices in my market over the last 5 years, the overall market. So I think that's, again, a very valuable little feature. Let me show you a couple more. I'm just trying to stimulate your mind. What can you use here? If I were showing somebody, I would show them this. I would show them what's happening with prices. The next thing I would do is go into active listings. If I go 5 year, remember this is a 5-year trend on listings. If I go back 5 years, there were 13,000 listings in my market. That's their competitors. They may remember when there were not a lot of competitors. Down in 2022, there were under 6,000. It fell in half, right? It went from 13,000 down to under 6. You and I all felt that if you were in the market. But then it trended back up, right? A year later, we're back up to 12. Last year, it was still floating around 12, but at the beginning of this year, it was already up to 17. And by the end of the year, by now, we're sitting here at 21,000. 21,000. It was only 12,000 listings before the market started to change. It got down to a low of 6,000, and now it's up to 21,000. See, I can show my seller exactly what's going on. Their competition has gone from this low of 6 to a high of 21. That's 3.5 times as many sellers they're competing with now today versus when their neighbor sold their property 3 years ago. Okay, that's why this is a super valuable one, this active listing. I'll show you one other thing you can do here. Now, this is the 12-month rolling average, but I can also go to monthly. You see how it kind of gets ziggity zaggity. But now I actually see, because that was a rolling average, it was actually low. There's actually 24,000 homes for sale right now in our market, the actual number, not the rolling average number. And down at the low, look at that. The low was just under 4,000. So the real number between the lowest spot and the peak today, whew, that's a factor of 6 times as many sellers today as there were 3 years ago. And they may have been hearing stories about back here, and you can now show them why that was happening. All right. So that's why I like that monthly versus the rolling average. The other thing you may show them is closed listings. This is also a great visual, right? Closing started here around 75,000 and then it rolled way up. Remember, this is the rolling 12 months, so it's the annualized amount. Got as high as 91,000, but then it's fallen all the way down here to an annual amount of 67-ish, 69, right? We are off by a third. There are a third less properties selling, closing, people getting paid. A third less people are getting paid, and yet you have 6 times as much competition. You're in the tough spot, right? Can you now see it and feel it? Can you help your sellers see it and feel it? All right, what else do we have? We got days in the market. Days in the market is interesting because it shows, hey, the market was cruising along about 15 days in the market. It went down to around 5 or below, and now it's all the way back up to 29 on a 12-month average, rolling average. If we actually go to the monthly data, it's up to 39 days in my market, right? 39 days on average. That's if you price right. It doesn't even talk about the people that never sold. It's only talking about the people that won the game and actually closed. Even they are waiting at least 39 days. So another good stat you can use in the overall market. Let's go back to that rolling average. We go to month supply. You can show them this. The month supply was two months. If nothing else sold out, got all the way down to less than 1 month supply. We're now all the way back up to 3.7 months supply. Could show them the monthly number. The actual number is actually higher than that. It's 4.2 months. We're actually sitting here with 4.2 months supply in the overall market. Compared to when it was going so fast, look at that, it was less than a half a month. Less than a half a month. It's taking 8 times longer to sell a home. See how you can show them the number? It's taken 8 times longer. It was a half, and now it's 4. That's 8 times longer. All right, so they've got to know what they're getting into, why they need to position well. This last one I'll show you here is showings to pendings. Showings to pendings is how many showings in the median is it taking before you get a buyer that goes under contract. This is a great number because historically, if you're like me, we've always told people 10 showings. Well, look here, it's 10 showings. Right now we're sitting at 10 showings. Now that's the rolling average. But that's a great graph to show them, look, if you're not getting an offer within the first 10 showings, something is wrong and we got to make an adjustment. Well, why do you know that, Mike? Why do you know it's 10 showings? Right here. It's the overall MLS. It's everybody in the MLS. They're at 10 showings that they have a median before they have to they have to change something because that's when they're getting their offers. If you're not getting an offer, like I just gave you an example of a property with, was 26, 28 showings, something like that. Well, that's way beyond 10. And of course, we made adjustments before we hit that mark. But if you have one that's been sitting there getting showings but no offers, they're missing and they got to adjust. Here's the graph that can show your people, look, here's what's happening in the overall market. We need to make a change. All right, so that is real quick on the first round. The first round is you show them what's going on in the overall market. The second round is you show them what's happening in their market. Okay, so now the way we do that is we go up here to where it says MLS. We go down. I'm going to start with zip code, and I'm going to pick a zip code near me. All right, so I'm going to pick this zip code. Now for price ranges, I'm going to make an adjustment here. They don't have the price range for my client that I was just talking about. I'll show you what I would do. I do 300, no, excuse me, 349 is 350. There we go. 350 up to 399. So she was basically between 350 and 400. I've got to change one of these to match that. And now I'm going to select it. So now I'm only selecting the properties between 350 and 400. That's what this is now showing. Okay. And then the property type, it's either a condominium or a townhome. She has a 2-story condo. It's a legal condo, but it also looks like a townhome. So they're very similar feel for the people out there in the market buying homes. So I'm going to combine it in this case together. I could narrow it down to bedrooms, like she has 3 bedrooms, but I'm not going to do that because I know I'm going to run out of data. I only know that because I played with it and I just didn't have enough data. So I'm going to leave it alone. I've got condominiums and townhomes in this price range, 350 to 400. I'm going to do a 5-year trend. I'm going to do the 12-month rolling, and I can show her how these prices have bounced around, and it went from 360 all the way up to 380, which is where she thinks she's at. I'm like, that's great. That is what the median is. You're in the right zone for what's going on here. We should be getting something, except we're going to then show her all the other factors that are going on. So then we're going to go into, and by the way, what I can do is also show the actual, because remember that's a change, the closed price. This is what's actually happening in the market month by month. And it went from 400 and it's falling all the way down to 368. All right. So I can show her what's happening month by month. I'm going to go into active listings. I'm going to first start with my trend. I always like to start with that trend line. We can see that active listings in this very tight niche, this zip code, just between 350 and 400 condos and townhomes. There's about 1 on the market each month, about 1, 0, 2, 2 for the longest time. But now in about 2023, it's bumped up to 3. 2024, it bumped up to 4. Going into 2020, the end of 24, it was going 7 per month, 8 per month, 9 per month. Now we're at 10. We now have 10 people that are trying to sell their property in this tight little niche, this little example that we've given. Again, this is a very tight niche of 350 to 400 condos and townhomes. There are now 10 for sale, 10 competitors, where before there were only a few. Okay, well, so what? There's 10 competitors, your seller says. You say, yeah, okay, but watch this next one. We're going to now go to closed listings. So these are the people actually selling and closing out. And this is an annualized number. I'm going to go to the monthly. Just helps in this example better. We can see how things were spiking up. We're getting quite a few sales, but now we're getting to today. There were 2 sales per month, 1 sale per month, 2. And last month, there were 0. 0 for sale. Seller, there were 0 for sale last month in your price range and your type of property. Between 350 and 400, not a single one of those 10 listings sold. Okay? We've got a tough market. You have got to position in front of the pack. You have to position in front of the pack. All right. Next, we're going to show, let me go back to rolling. We've got days in the market. So now we got days in the market. We can show them how it's taking longer to sell. It was a low here of 5 days. And just in the last year, that's already shot up to 23 days. It's taking only if you position correctly and you're one of the lucky ones who actually sell. Right? At the very beginning of this call, I was talking to, and I apologize, I'm not looking at my whole screen. I think it was Terry, and she made a great statement. She said, in my market, she's up in, I think, Seattle. She said, hey, in my market, if you price right and you sell in the first week, boom, you're happy, you might get multiple offers. But if you miss that window, you're stuck in limbo. Things aren't happening. Things slow down. Nobody comes by. It's tough. That's why you got to have this conversation at the listing whenever possible. So these are only the people that actually went under contract. It took them 23 days. And those were the ones that people liked, the 1 out of 10. All right, we also have month of supply, may be helpful to show them. You could show them how this month supply went from a tenth of a month at the low, all the way up to 3.4 right now. And then you may also want to do showings to pendings, although with no pendings, this number just goes through the floor. So I don't know if that's going to be as helpful for them. I would always look at closed price, active listings, and closed listings. I think they're going to be your most valuable. After that, I'd go with days in the MLS if it makes sense, and then possibly month supply. All right. I'm now going to come out of that. And just remember, if you like any of these graphs, go into share. Oops, hit the wrong button. Go into share. And if you want static, social, or email, you click the share button. You can copy this little URL. I think this is so cool. And then they just post it out there for you as a quick reference. And there it is. You can give it to your client. Or you could put it into the report. You could put it in as a link. You could put it in as a graphic they can look at. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pop out of here, get back to our group. And hopefully that was helpful. So that was one. The next thing I want to share with you is you can take some of those stats and you can work them into the next part, which is number 2 is a seller weekly report. A seller weekly report. It's critical that you're in front of your people once a week, letting them know what's going on with the market. And one of the things that we're afraid of is if we have bad news, we don't want to share it with them. Wrong. Look for bad news. Share it with them. It always is better if the bad news comes from somebody else rather than you. Okay. I just had scheduled, this is a while, maybe a month ago, for one of my buyers to go look at a property far away. And I used a showing service because I didn't want to drive over there. Anyway, it came back that the property was just terrible. I didn't hide that information. I gave it to the listing agent. You know, they asked for feedback reports. I just copied and pasted the comments from the buyer agent that said this property, all the problems, had a leak in the basement, looked like terrible, it smelled like urine. I mean, she was just going on and on about how bad this property was. I didn't soften any of that up. I copied and pasted and sent it over to the listing agent. Listing agent reaches back out to me and says, thank you so much for telling me. I hadn't been in that property for a couple of weeks. The seller needs to know it because the property was vacant. The seller needs to know there's a problem. And I've been trying to figure out a way to tell him. I didn't realize that was the problem. And that got sent over to the seller. I don't know what happened after that, but I'm assuming they fixed the problem and or got an adjustment, right? I helped this listing agent and the seller. And that's what I want too. I want my buyer agents to be honest when they go through my property and give me the seller, the showing feedback. I want them to tell me if there's a problem. I want them to tell me they think the price is too high or the property needs X, Y, and Z, or there was some kind of issue inside the home. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell me that. The seller needs to hear that information. Last part, it always works best if it comes from somebody else. Okay. It came from the market. It came from the buyer. It came from the buyer's agent. I'm not a bully trying to pick on you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you position in the market. How many times, by the way, have I said those words on this call? Position in the market. It should become part of your dialogue. I need to help you position in the market. I'm here to help you reposition in the market. We need to position in the market so you get more activity and you get sold. You get the cash in your hand while everybody else is wondering what happened. Okay. So reposition is a great sentence. All right, I work this seller report once a week. Let me give you a little bit of information on it, and then I'm going to show you the template. So the biggest seller complaint that happens on expired listings, I'm sure you all know the answer. When a listing expires, the seller always says it was the agent's fault. And the other thing they always say is the agent didn't communicate with me. They never told me what's going on. If you've ever reached out to expired listings, unfortunately, this is true. I'm like, well, when's the last time you talked to your agent? Well, it was 2 months ago. I didn't even know the home expired, right? Agents get scared. They don't want to share bad news with the seller, whatever their reasons. It's a big mistake. You want to be the one sharing the information from the beginning every week. Boom, boom, boom. So that's the number one reason you should be doing this. So we do a weekly report. You're going to share that information. It eliminates the problem or the challenge that they didn't think you were keeping up with them. And it often leads to price drops and repositioning by the seller. The seller asks, what can I do to reposition? The seller asks, well, should I move to this point? Should I offer this incentive? I'm going to show you why they're saying this. Should I offer this incentive or should I go to this price? They're bringing it up with me. That's such a great feeling. I'd rather it be their idea than my idea. I'm going to show you why that's happening in just a sec. All right, here's how it works. I email my seller a weekly report. I do it the same day and time each and every week. You need to establish a day that you do seller reports. It needs to happen once a week. It needs to happen on the same day and the same time. I don't recommend Mondays or Fridays because of holidays, right? When we have those long holidays, Mondays and Fridays don't work well. But I love a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or Thursday. I prefer Tuesday because it's right after the weekend. If there were showings, your seller is curious and they know the report is coming up. I also pick a time. I do mine in the mornings, typically between 9 and 10. I'm going to reach out to them with this seller report and let them know what's going on. By establishing that in my listing presentation and by showing them that I do it every week, they now know they're going to hear from me once a week. They will withhold their questions until that time. I don't get bombarded with daily texts and voicemails and calls with the seller saying, hey, I want to know what happened with the last showing. I want to know why we didn't do X, Y, and Z. I want to know why my neighbor's home just went up for sale. I'm like, you know what? We're going to talk on Tuesday. I'll talk to you then. Okay. They get in the pattern. They understand the pattern and it's going to reduce everything for you so you can batch your time. You have to do things like that if you want to perform at a high level. Number one, you got to do things like that if you just want to recapture, gain control of your time so you're not working crazy hours. All right. So that's what I do. I pick a day and a time. You should do the same. Tell your sellers in that listing presentation so they know what to expect. We just talked about that. What else? I'm just trying to make sure I hit all my notes before I show you what's going to happen here. I'll show you the example. Yeah, I'm going to just give you that example why I show you. So let's do that. I'm going to show you now my template. And here's the process, by the way. I'm going to send an email. Then I'm going to call and or text them. People have text today, so I usually do both. And then in that call, I hope to speak with them, and I'm going to walk through this report. So I probably will email, then text, and then call. That's what I've been doing recently. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out where my share button is. Hold on. What am I missing there? Share button. All right, here we go. There we go. All right, so we got the screen. Angela, can you see the screen? All right, thank you. All right, cool. And then I'm going to hide that floater. All right, so here's the simple email template. You can take a screenshot of this if you'd like. You're welcome to use it, modify it, etc. I'm going to walk you through it, why it works so well.
And
By
Mike,
the way,
your toolbar is covering a little bit at the bottom, just FYI.
say that again, Angela, what is?
The little toolbar in your, whatever your.
Oh, see, I just hit it, so I don't know why that's there, but I will be screening through the email so you can see the whole thing. Okay, fair enough. I think I understand what you're saying now. This is the biggest I can make it on my screen. This is my actual template. So let me just do that. Maybe you can see the whole thing. Is that better, Angela? Yeah. All right, cool. So, and we're going to walk through this, but if you want to take a screenshot, this would be screenshot 1. I'll give you like 10 seconds to take a snap. That's screenshot 1. And then there's screenshot 2. So that was the top and the bottom of the email. Okay. And then we're now also going to walk through it. All right, so let's walk through it. First of all, by the way, this is a literal template. I use Gmail and I saved it as a template. This is the way I would start my very first seller report for someone. I would put in the day. I put seller report weekly and the date. And then I put their name, of course, and hey, this is a weekly report on the sale of your property. And I get right into it. Here's our current price. Here on the days are on the market. So we're tracking that. It's going up by 7 each time I talk to them. This is the showings that we've had this week in total. So we have 1 this week. We've had 3 in total, or whatever the numbers are. This is feedback this week. And what I do, if you're getting your feedback from, say, showing time where the agents are filling it in, I just copy and paste it in. And these are the things that I typically end up copying and pasting. I'll just bring it right from the agent. So it's in the agent's words. And then I'm going to show them the next part, which is very powerful. It's the competition in the neighborhood. This is what's going on in your overall, in your market, in your neighborhood. So a condo or a townhome, this is the complex. If it's a house, we're talking about the subdivision. I'm going to show them all the actives. I'm going to show them the address and the price. I may throw in some more information there. It's going to be very, very simple and clean. But if it's pertinent information like a different style, like a ranch style 1 level or 2-story or 3, I may put that in there if I think it's important. I may put in the number of bedrooms and baths. I may put in the square footage if these are variables that change a lot in their market. But I don't want it to be any longer than a line, 1 line each. I want it to do very simple. Here's the actives. Here's the pendings. Here are the closed, right? And sometimes if I have a lot of expireds and withdrawns, I'll add a line for expireds and withdrawns. Okay. As things happen in their market, I'll let them know. Like if this is a new listing, I'll say new. Right. Actually, I usually start with us. This is us. And then let's say this one's a new one. I'll do, hey, this is a new one. And I may highlight it too. Like if that's a new one, I may do this. I may try to point it out by doing a text color of red. Now that'll pop out at it. Okay. And anyway, I'm going to fill that in and I'm going to go all the way down. Buyer calls would be next. Hey, have I had any buyers calling in off the sign or off any of the ads? Any kind of buyer reach out. So buyer call would also be an email, a text, anywhere that a buyer would reach out to us about the property. I'm going to make a note of what they said and I'm going to drop it in here. Agent calls, same thing. So if an agent calls up inquiring about the property or making comments about the property, I'm going to put it there. And then this is the most important part of the whole thing, the action plan. What are the next steps? Okay. What I will do here is I will typically have 3 options. I don't like more than 3. Sometimes I'll do 4, but I usually like to have 3 options here. I've changed the order of this, but usually the first one is stay put, do nothing, right? Stay the course, I think I call it, stay the course. Then option number 2 is I'm going to say, keep the same price, but add a concession. And then option 3 is drop the price. And so I don't say it in those words. What I say is, hey, option 1 is stay the course. Option 2 is keep the price at, let's say, $425, but let's add a $10,000 buyer incentive. Okay, so it's a $425K price with a $10K buyer incentive. That's option 2. And then option 3 is going to be a deeper step, a deeper cut or a bigger step. And I would say option 3, change the price to $400K. Okay, so they're at $425. That's stay the course. Next is a small step. So in that case, I'm going to do a concession and I'm going to say, all right, just go keep it $425, but add a $10,000 buyer incentive, and we'll promote that or advertise that through the comments in the MLS. And then 3 is the price reduction to move down to the next step. In this case, it would be from 4.25 down to 400. So I'd write in move the price to 400K or reposition the price to 400K. Those are the 3 options. All right, so I email this off to them. I text them and I say, hey, I just sent you the seller report. And then I call them. And if I get their voicemail, I let them know I just sent it to them, and I may give them some quick notes on the voicemail, but not too long. What I'd like to do is talk to them. And I want to give them this information. And often, if they've read the report before I talk to them, they tell me one of the options down here. They've read the report and they say, You know, Mike, I want to stay the course this week. Great. Hey, Mike, I'm not good with doing a full price reduction, price change to, I don't, or they usually say things like, I don't want to go to 400, but I'll do the 425 and let's go ahead and do the to $10,000 buyer's incentive. Like, great, great. We are now moving in the right direction. Sometimes I have to half step them down to get them moving. We got to do something to get them in front of my pack. Remember, in this example, the gal has 10 competitors, 10, and only one went pending. That was the 11th one. Only one pending in the whole month. So she's got to be competitive, and I've got to help her position. That's where this report comes into. And I've had, in this example, this lady, I've had her answer all three of these answers. I'm going to stay pat. No, I want to do number two. Let's go ahead and do number three, right? That's how they start the conversation. Cool. That's great. All right, that is the report. So again, if you want to make a snapshot, we'll do one. There's snapshot number one, and I'll wait for you. A screenshot. And there's screenshot number two. All right, cool. All right. All right, so that is what I've been doing to keep my seller updated on the market. Remember, the two ideas are, one, talk about all this up front in the listing presentation. You're going to save yourself a lot of headache. Two, if that's gone by, you got to do the seller reports. You got to do the seller reports anyway, even if things are moving. Okay, like I told you, I've got that other property where people told me they're going to bring an offer, but then they never bring an offer. I got to keep doing those seller reports so my seller is in the know. They understand what's happening. All right, let's do this, Angela. I'm going to turn it back over to you for some Q&A. Anybody got any questions? Go ahead and put them in chat or unmute yourself. Angela, can you hear me okay?
I can, yes. And so yeah, if you have any questions, we're going to open it up for questions. So you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand if it's easier. You don't want to have to type it all out, and then you can just ask your question, and that way you and Mike can kind of go back and forth.
Excellent.
We did have a couple of comments in the chat, so maybe we can start with that. Sam said that in his market, it depends on what price point and area of the city they're in. The market is spotty, so it depends on the price and location. He also mentions that a declining market is a race to the bottom of the competition for the sellers. So following the market down is not going to work in a declining slow market.
That's exactly right, Sam. That's exactly right. That's the conversation you have to have with that seller. Following in a declining market is a killer. You're going to lose. Those are the words you want to use, right? Following everybody down, you're last. If you're the last one to move, you're losing. You've got to be competitive. You have to be the first one to swallow that frog, to make that difficult decision and move down. It takes guts in this market. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I completely understand you don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. None of us want to do this. It doesn't feel good. But if you don't, you're going to be following the market down several steps instead of just one. You've got to move out in front of the competition. And by the way, your competitors will notice that, and they're going to move behind you, probably 1 to 2 weeks behind you. You've got to take that first mover advantage. Another great piece of language. First mover advantage. Get in front of the pack. You have to be in front of the group. So again, I like to do it, and I don't have a way, I'm not smart enough to know how to do it on the computer, but I would take out a piece of paper, flip it over if I was a listing presentation, and I'd write stair steps down. Did that stair step look the right direction going down for you all? I have to do it backwards on my screen. So I would do the stair step down. I say, look, we're all here. All the competitors are here. The next stair step down is here. The first one to get to that step is going to win, but that's the only one that's going to sell that month because everybody else is then going to move down to that step. Remember, you got a 1 week, maybe 2 week advantage to get ahead of them. You've got to win first. Why? Because now everybody's on that step. Now everybody's on that step. As Sam just said, it's a race to the bottom. So everybody's now on that step. And now the very first person to get in front of the pack is going to win the next round. But if you wait, if you're number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in my example, you aren't going to win. You're behind. You're lagging. The winner already won, and now that category is done. Right now, you got to go to the next step. All right, and that's why I believe Sam, if I understand his statement correctly, is talking about it's a race to the bottom, and it does become a race to the bottom. Let me give you some other information that can help. Look back into historical markets. Look into historical markets. If you haven't been around long enough, or you just didn't know or experience it, some markets in the country got clobbered in the last recession. Phoenix, big market, Phoenix, Arizona, went down 40 to 50%. 40 to 50%, whatever the value of your home is today. You personally think about this, whatever the value of your personal home is, imagine the value going down in half. Ouch. Keep in mind though, that doesn't happen overnight. It's stair stepping. It's click, 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 click. It's a little bit at a time. But if you wait, if you have been in that market and you waited and you were always the last one to move on the stair, and you weigh all the way down to 50% off instead of just 5% off. You could have got 5% off and sold for all that money, and instead you were following the pack down. See how I just shared an example of a story? That's what you've got to do with the seller. Okay, let me give you another one. I was surprised to learn this. I knew it was bad. I didn't realize how bad. Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, their market went down by 60% on average in the last recession. 60%? Again, just imagine yourself getting knocked around and losing 60% of the value of your home. Just run the numbers in your head right now. It's huge. And that's what you have to say to the seller. Could you imagine being in one of these markets where you got knocked out by 50%? Is that going to happen? I don't know. I have no idea. I have no crystal ball. Well, there's inflation happening. Yep, there sure is. And yet these markets are falling during inflation. It's a supply and demand thing. I don't know what is going to happen, but I don't want you to get burned. My job is to help position you so you win in this market. Hope you're picking up on dialogues, right? I'm trying to give you enough keywords you can use with people. I'll give you one other thing. I don't use a particular script, but I think of a concept. I know I've got to help these people get ahead of the pack. And then my words will share what that idea is. My creativity will come up with a way to show them, like I said, drawing on a piece of paper or using one of the graphs that I presented today. Okay. All right, do we have other questions?
Blake says, have you found that the charts are important to the client? Do you include the charts with your weekly report?
Yeah, it's a great question, Blake. I just started to do that. And yes, it's visual. In the old days, before we had such a cool system, I used to draw the chart on every single one of my listings. Again, I just love drawing. I'd flip the page over and I would just draw it. I would show them. In fact, if I could, that was one of the things I didn't show you guys. It's really cool. And let's see if I can find that. This was very, very helpful. Let's go to, all right, I keep forgetting how to share my screen. Hold on, Angela, let me know if I'm sharing. And Angela, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Here is an example of a graph I used almost my entire listing career, but I used to draw it. Let me show you, I think it's closed listings, and then the monthly version. Let's go to a tighter time frame. Oh, I know it was. I have to go to the overall market. I'm like, that doesn't look quite right. Let's go to all markets and all price ranges. Here we go. And oops, I got to still change this to the entire MLS. And I got to go to all property types. Here we go. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to show a graph of the entire market. It's the entire MLS, all price ranges, all property types. I'm back to the beginning. But I'm going to show a trend. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to the actual monthly days. Okay, so it's the actual monthly version, not the rolling version. I don't know if you can notice a trend in my market. I used to draw this graph all the time. The market goes up and the market goes down each year. The market goes up and the market goes down. What am I looking at? I'm looking at the number of closed listings. You can also show it with pendings. Okay, pendings is also a good way to show this. It's the same concept. Pendings is just slightly ahead of closings. You'll notice the graph is moving slightly backwards and forwards. But how many contracts are happening? Well, in my market every year, the spring is hot. The spring is hot, and then it rolls down throughout the summer. I get a little blip here in about September, and then it falls out. And I have this trend every single year. Every single year. This is a really great example. The spring market went hot, went down through the summer. It hit another peak here in the end of the summer, early fall, and then it falls out. I got the same trend going on and on and on in the market. Well, I used to draw that trend all the time on the market because people say, hey, I'm coming in the market here. What's going to happen next? I say, well, it's probably going to go down in the number of closings. And so they're like, is this a good time to come in the market or not? And I said, well, it depends on if you want to be with everybody else or not, right? I'll sell a property at the end of the quarter, but what happens here is there's fewer homes for sale, but there's also a lot less competition. This active listings goes down too. The other sellers get out of the market at the end of the year. Okay, so I could show that now graphically with this stuff, which I couldn't do before. I love this stuff. This is very powerful. Whenever you can show rather than tell, super powerful. Hope I answered your question, Blake.
Great. Any other questions? Does anyone have anything? I have a question. So when should you start talking to the seller about lowering the price? Let's say that you've gone on the market, you're doing a weekly report. Is it going to be different in every market?
Great question. And my answer is immediately. You should immediately be putting this information out. You're gonna get a feel from the market in those reports. It depends on what kind of market you're in. Excuse me. Depends on what kind of market you're in. Are you in a strong market, a weak market, a flat market? What's happening? You'll know that. You'll know you have told them that in the listing presentation, and they may have said, hey, I want to test the market. They're like, great. I would structure that into the MLS, into my listing agreement. I literally used to write in the price is X today. And in my additional provisions, I'd say, okay, in 1 week, the price changes to this. It would go down. And another week, the price changes to this. And 1 week later, I would put a date. On this date, the price changes to this. I think it was something along the lines, and again, I'm not a lawyer, talk to your broker to get the right language, but it's on the idea of, on this date, the price will change. On this date, if we're not under contract, the price will change to blank. It's just automatic price reduction in the original listing agreement. If I were in there and they really want to push the price, I might have 4 or 5 of those things in my original listing agreement, because I know I have to move them into the market. If they want to play around up there for a while, great. And maybe they're right. Maybe they'll get lucky. But if they're wrong, I can't have them sitting up there positioned there in the wrong place. So I would write in those price reductions in the listing agreement. I keep saying MLS, in the listing agreement right off the bat. Now, nobody knows about it other than me and the seller, and I guess my broker. But nobody else knows we're going to be positioning like that. Just us. It's just that this is the way it'll work. And the way I would make the seller understand that is this is a logical way to approach this, not an emotional way to approach this, that the price will adjust on these timeframes if we don't have a contract. This is the logical way to find the highest price in your market. We don't want to lose on emotion. We want to win on logic. So this is the logical way to get down. And most of them would say, okay, makes sense, let's do it. They may want to adjust the number of how many days, or they may want to change the price and the adjustments. Great. They've got a buy-in, and I've got that all written into my agreement. And I know I got to get down below a certain point if they've overpriced. I will work with them in that situation to test the market, knowing that it's going to come down. Okay. Once I'm into it, if I misjudged this one that I've been talking about, I thought the market was doing okay, and the market turns out was not doing okay. Somehow I either missed the data, or something went wrong. For me, I don't think I advised her well enough. So I had to come in after the fact and immediately say, you know what? I am finding this information. I am finding this information. And so in my little seller report, I would make, I typed in little extra statements at the very top. Hey, I just learned this. Okay, I just learned that our market has actually fallen over the last year and I thought it was flat. I just learned this from another source that showed me our market's actually going to go down by 10 to 12% over the next year. I don't know if they're right, but if they are, we've got to reposition you right away. We cannot wait. Okay. I want to do what's in their best interest. I need to help them win because I know I've been through the declining market. If they ride that roller coaster down and they're in the back car, they're going to get crushed. All right, good.
If somebody chooses the option just to stay put,
Yep.
what do you tell them?
I said, that's great. Let's do that. I say, that's great. Let's do that. I know they now know all the information. They know what to expect, and it's sitting there.
And then
Okay.
the next week you just share
Show it
an
again.
update again with recommendations.
Absolutely. Ultimately, who makes all decisions on the listing?
The
The
seller.
seller. Seller always makes all the decisions. They have to make all the decisions. It's their property. By the way, if you have that philosophy of the seller always makes the decisions, you won't get burned by telling them, oh, you should price it X, and then it doesn't sell at X. And they go, well, you told me the price at X, and now you're burned, right? I never do that. I learned early because I got burned. So I would always make the seller pick the price. The seller always picks the price. Okay, the seller always picks all the terms. I am here just to guide them and advise them. I know we're kind of going long, but I want to give a lot. If you have other questions, I'm here to answer them for you. Any other questions that we have?
I am not seeing any. So, well, we can go ahead and wrap this up. And thank you. Awesome presentation, Mike. Thank you for sharing. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can watch this. We're going to have the replay on YouTube. And if you can just search for Rams Agents Talk Real Estate, that's the channel name. Or if you're on the email list that's going out, then I think you'll get a replay link there as well. And this presentation was sponsored by Rams Agents at Epic Realty. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can go back to whoever invited you to this meeting, and be sure to watch out then for the next Rams Agents Talk Real Estate presentation. We do these every month, and we pick a topic that we think would be really helpful for agents.
Thank you, Angela. Hey, you know what? If you're still here, I have a bonus idea. Did anybody want to hear one final bonus idea? It just hit me. I can't help myself. I want to share. There's an idea that very few agents will do, but sometimes it's what will get you an agreement, a contract with a buyer that's come through your property. If you ever find yourself in the position where you are the listing agent and you've got a property where there have been a lot of showings but no offers, or you're in the situation where a buyer has written an offer but hasn't come together. Okay, so they've written an offer but you couldn't negotiate it together and it's kind of died. Here is a bonus idea. We call it the reverse offer. Reverse offer. Reverse offer. All right, the whole idea is this. Typically, in most markets, the buyer initiates the offer, and then the seller is in the position of either agreeing, countering, or rejecting, right? That's what typically happens, and it goes back and forth. Maybe you get something done. If you got a situation where a buyer has reached out to you and looking at your property, but it didn't come together either through negotiation or just through showings, what you can do is a reverse offer. The seller can initiate the offer to the buyer. All right. And the way you typically do this is you could tell your seller, hey, look, I got this really strong buyer over there. We've either negotiated with them and it failed, or they're just sitting out there and they keep coming back and looking at the property. They're very strong interest, but I can't get them over the fence. Here's an idea. Let's give them a little incentive, seller, let's give the buyer a little bit of an incentive, either a little bit of a break on the price, a little bit of incentive in their concessions, some kind of little incentive. And we give an offer over to them. If they will accept this offer within a certain period of time, because you got your expirations, So within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever, if they'll accept this special price and special terms, we'll put a deal together now. And only you're the only one. It's called exclusivity. Buyer, you're the only one in the market that gets to hear this. If you accept it, boom, we'll put a deal together right now. And you can put deals together that look like they never come together. It's called a reverse offer. The seller goes out and offers it to the buyer. And again, the way you do it is it's like a special deal. This is a limited time special deal just for you. If you don't accept it, that's fine. It's off the table. We're not going to do it again. But if you accept in the next, you always have to have a deadline. In the next 1, 2, 3 days, you can get this special deal. Anyway, so that's a little bonus, something for you to think about. And I appreciate everybody being here. Angela, thank you so much for being the host.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, take care, everyone. Have a fantastic and productive rest of your day. Thank you.